Hello friends and welcome back to The Air Effect. If you are new here, my name is Kristina and I run this channel because I like old books, I write novels, and I want to live a practical vintage lifestyle. And my intro changes like every week. So I had something completely different planned for this week's video. I'm getting a text. For this week's video, I was going to film something sort of Halloween adjacent. Which I'm still going to do this video idea because I got a 1955 Snow White dairy cookbook. That's what I was going to do this week. I had planned to film on Sunday. I was gonna make this really cute recipe. I was gonna dress up like Snow White. It was gonna be a whole little cutesy semi-Halloween, really just me being a Disney princess cooking a recipe video. But then something happened, and honestly, I have no regrets. I have no regrets that this is not a spooky video, this is not a vintage video, and this is a video that I had debated for a long time whether I even wanted to keep this kind of content on my channel because it is a big part of my life, but it's not a big part of my channel. A lot of you know that I have debated for a really long time whether I want to keep writing channel content, whether I want to keep writing content on my channel, because the last 3 videos that I did about writing didn't perform that well, but a lot of you also really encouraged me to keep doing it because you really liked that video. But instead of just talking about my novel, which I'm going to do because I have really exciting updates, I wanted to also make this video a little bit more helpful than the last writing vlog, because I filmed that writing vlog not thinking that I really had anything to offer as a writer, because I am not a published author, and I've always felt like that was the mark that you had to hit in order to call yourself an official writer, and that's really not true. I've been writing since I was 7 years old. I have a lot of experience. I put my writing out on the internet, and it's been up for like 12 years. I've had it critiqued, and I had a novel that went miniature, like it went viral for the time. It was 10 years ago and it was incredibly popular. I have a wealth of knowledge about writing, and I know that I am a good writer. So when I sat to film this video, I was up really late last night thinking about how I wanted to film it. At first I was just going to film a writing vlog throughout the week and slap it together on Thursday and put it up on Friday and call it good. But then I thought, why not offer writing advice? But not just any writing advice. This is writing advice for people who hate writing advice. This is writing advice for people who are trying to get out of a writing slump. Writing advice for people who really need some practical advice for everyday life because you have kids, you have a job, you go to college, you don't have time for writing. This is for you. If you hate writing advice, if you feel discouraged by most writing advice, then this video is for you, because I really hate writing advice and here I am giving it. But I promise you, my writing advice is not, you know, check your grammar and whatever all this stupid writing advice is. This is not that video. So I have rambled on long enough. Let's just get to my 5 pieces of writing advice for writers who hate writing advice. My very first piece of writing advice is to read. And I know that might sound funny at first if you are not a voracious reader, but you really like to write. But I read a quote a long time ago that went something along the lines of, you cannot pour out your creativity without feeding it. No matter how creative you are never drawing on a well of creativity that just never ends without also putting creative things back into it. And I never write as well or as much as I do when I am also reading all the time. I read novels that are within my genre that I like to write, but I also read novels that are not in that genre. I read history books, I read blog posts, I'm looking at my bookcase trying to think of all of the things that I have read. In the past month, I have read 5 or 6 books because I just realized that I am never as good of a writer as I am when I'm feeding my creativity. You have to read good books in order to learn how to be a good writer. I always think of reading as like a learning experience. Whether you're really enjoying the book or not, you are learning something from that, and it is sparking some sort of creativity within you. When I read really good books, I want to write like that. I want to go sit and write my own story ideas. I don't want to like plagiarize other authors, but I'm so inspired by these authors that I love, and I just want to write books that move other people the way that those novels moved me. And when I read bad books, it inspires me to sit and write because I know that I can write better. And I know that if they were able to get their novel published, and they have several novels published with a publishing company, then there's no reason that I couldn't get mine published and have several novels with a publishing company. So my first bit of writing advice is to feed your creativity. Read novels that you love, even if they're like trashy romance novels. Read them anyway. Don't be ashamed to read what you love and be inspired by it. My second piece of advice goes hand in hand with my third piece of advice. So the second piece of advice is to write every day. And I know that you hear this a lot, but nobody ever really explains how to do that. And this goes along with my third piece of writing advice, which is set your bar very low. So of course, in order to cultivate a good writing habit, and in order to get better, you have to practice. So you have to write every day, or at least as often as you can, but set your bar really low. Because if you're setting your bar at, I want to write 1,000 words every day, and you're a short story author, that's a lot. That's a lot of words to commit to when you are writing stories that are maybe only 20,000 words long. Set your bar low. I want to talk about my friend Eden Wilder, who I met because I'm on the cover of her novellas. I will link them down below. She is a wonderful, quirky, modern romance novelist, and I love her. But she texted me last week, and that's what sparked this entire video, because she wanted to write every day, and she had set her bar at 250,000 or 250 words. Not 250,000, that's not possible. But she had set her bar at 250 words, and I said, well, can I join you? Because I have not been writing and I need to be writing. And so we started doing this together. I found that when I sat to write, I was writing 1,000 words a day, easily. When I sit to write, and when I am fully captivated by the novel that I'm writing, which I am right now, and I will talk about that later. When I'm fully captivated by what I'm writing, I write a lot. I just sit and I write for an hour. I have a playlist that I play through, and I just go. I let myself write and I just do it. But for her, she writes short novellas. She writes short stories, and so 250 words was a lot, especially because she writes by hand, so far as I know. I might be wrong about that. But she has young kids and she just moved, and 250 words, that was a lot for her. So she lowered her bar to 100 words. And that way, even on her worst day, she could still hit that bar and still feel good about it. But I want to say set your bar even lower. Even if all you do is sit and write one sentence, you have still written that day. And you are still working to build your story in some way, and you should be proud of that. So write every day. Second piece of advice, but set your bar low. so that no matter how bad of a day you're having, no matter how little time you have, no matter what happens in that day, you can still write and feel good about it. My fourth piece of writing advice is to have someone that you can talk to about your writing. Now, I know that a lot of writers don't like to talk about writing, and I was one of those people for a really long time. I didn't like to talk to people about my writing, and I realized recently it's because they didn't understand my writing. They were my in-laws, who I felt a little awkward talking to about romance novels because my father-in-law is a Baptist pastor, and I love them dearly and they are not judgmental at all, but it just felt a little awkward. And or my husband, who himself is a creative, and he would offer his own ideas into my writing, and it wasn't really what I wanted. I didn't want feedback or creative ideas to be given to me. I want to come up with them on my own, and I already have so many. I didn't need more input in that way, but I needed somebody to talk to who could help me troubleshoot when I was trying to figure out, should I have my character go this way or that way, and should this happen first or should that happen first, and just somebody that I could go to and say, I'm so excited about this scene and I want you to read it and I want you to be excited with me. So now I have friends who write, and we talk about writing, and we're all excited for each other, and we're all here to encourage each other and help each other troubleshoot when we need to, because we are inspired by each other in some way or another, and that is the kind of person that you want to talk about your writing. Or just somebody who is a big fan of how you write, who can sit there and be your groupie and just encourage you to write, because you don't want somebody criticizing your work every step of the way when you're on your first draft and you just want to finish your book. So find somebody that you can talk to about your writing safely, because you need someone to talk to about your writing. You will need someone to help you figure out a problem. And that's okay. Every good writer has a big backup of a big posse of people who have helped them become what they are. So find your people and talk to them about your writing. My fifth piece of writing advice is to research what you write about, but after you have written your first draft. So I am the kind of writer where I used to see writing advice like, only write about what you know about, and whatever other writing advice there is that's basically saying you can't write about it unless you've researched it or lived it. And I would see that and I would get really discouraged, because I love writing about the Scottish Highlands and historic romances, Victorian times, but I've not lived any of those experiences, and I am not a historian. I know tidbits of information that I've gathered from history books and TV shows and other books that I've read, but if you were to ask me a specific question about what I'm writing about right now, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you, because I don't know. But that's okay. When you're writing, you're not writing a history book. You're not writing to be historically accurate or perfectly technically accurate in whatever it is that you're writing about. You're writing to move somebody. You're writing to tell the story of people. So research what you write after you've written your first draft. And if you absolutely have to know something, just do a quick Google search and make yourself a note to make sure that that quick Google search was accurate. There are so many things that I need to know about the novel that I'm writing right now, but I am 20 chapters in. I am 10 chapters away from finishing, and I still don't know them. I need to know so many things. I need to know what kind of medicine midwives would have used in the 1700s in Scotland, and I need to know how they chose a clan leader. I need to know, where did they take off their muddy clothes in castles? Did they have a mudroom, or did they just go to their rooms to get changed? And I need to know, how many changes of clothes would they have had in the 1700s in the Highlands? And I need to know so many things about this novel that are small little technical things that I can look up later, because I have a general knowledge of the Highlands from history books that I've ordered and read, and reading books that I know are historically accurate. watching shows that I know get it mostly right. And I know that's not the best way to research. But the thing is, when I'm writing and I don't know something, but I vaguely know it, I'll make myself a note in my document to look it up later. And then I just keep going. And if it's wrong, I'll change it in my second draft. And if it's right, well, that's cool. I learned something that I didn't realize I had learned. I think you really should know something about what you're writing about, but you can always research it after you've gotten your first draft out, after you've gotten your storyline worked out, because there have been so many times when I've been writing a novel and I would see that advice, only write about what you know about, or I would see blog posts critiquing romance novelists for never having it historically accurate. And then I would get stuck because I'd think, well, I don't know everything there is to know about this and I don't want to get it wrong. And I would forget this is just a first draft and I can go research that when I'm done writing my first draft, and it will be okay. Not very many people are going to see my first draft. But I'm the kind of writer who wants to write and get it right the first time. That's just how I am. I like for things to flow. But I think it's also really good to realize that it's your first draft and it's okay for it to be terrible, and it's okay to not know everything, because you're just not going to know everything, ever. And that's fine. So, those are my 5 tips of writing advice. Those are my 5 pieces of writing advice for writers who really hate writing advice. If you come across a piece of writing advice and it makes you want to stop writing because you think you just can't write because this piece of writing advice is telling you that you're not good enough, throw it out the window. So now that I've gotten all of those pieces of advice out of the way, I hope that they were helpful to somebody, but I want to talk about my novel and why I'm even filming this video when I said that I wasn't even sure if I was going to have writing content on my channel. I'm indecisive, but that's okay. I have a lot of new subscribers, and first of all I want to say hello. If you didn't know and you came here for 1950s content, my channel is vintage inspired. It is not 1950s content focused. I do a lot of 1950s content in the spring and the summer because that's kind of when I don't have as many plans. Around the holidays I have a lot of themed content that I want to do. And then recently, in the spring, I put out a writing vlog and it didn't do that well, and I wasn't sure if I actually could integrate my writing into my channel. Writing is something that I have done for a very long time. My first memory of writing was when I was 7 years old, and I think I was 7. I was 7 or 8, maybe 9. And I remember I wanted to be one of those girls who wrote in their diary every day and had a cute diary full of entries, but I just wasn't interested in writing about my real life because it was always so boring to me. So I would write stories for my cousins about these twins that got into all of this trouble all the time. And I distinctly remember sitting there reading these stories to my cousins and just really loving creating these silly little worlds for them. That's the first memory I have of really loving sharing my writing with someone. And in between the ages of like 7 to 16, I have diary entries where I just didn't think my life was interesting, so I would make stuff up. So most of my childhood diaries are just filled with stories. So around 16 is when I remember that I might have been younger. I might have been 14 or 15. Somewhere in there, I remember having this dream, and I don't really remember what it was about. I had this idea to write a story, and that was really my first inkling that I wanted to write novels. And then at 18, I distinctly remember writing My Beloved, and that took me 2 years to finish. And that was the first novel that I ever finished, and it was a massive novel. It was 200,000 words, and it was a historical novel about the Celts and the Saxons when the Saxons invaded Britain. And you know, now I look back and I know it's wildly historically inaccurate in so many ways, but that was my first real foray into thinking this is what I want to do. So I wrote that, and then after I wrote My Beloved, I participated in National Novel Writing Month, and I wrote the worst novel that I've ever written, and it will never be read by anybody except for the people who read it while I was writing it. But I wrote it, and I was so proud of myself for writing a novel in a month. And then when I was about 21, I wrote a novella, which is on Amazon. You can buy it or read it for free if you want to. I'm not particularly proud of it. It was just an experiment, honestly. When I was trying to decide whether I wanted to self-publish or traditionally publish, I figured maybe I would just put my novella out because it was complete. It didn't need a lot of editing. Like, it's not the greatest story, but it was okay, and I just wanted to see how everything worked. So that's on the internet, and you can buy it if you want to. I wrote it so long ago, and it kind of dated itself a little bit, but it is what it is. But after that, I started a lot of novels. I started 5 or 10 novels that I never finished. I got really close to finishing 2 of them. Then I got married, and then I had 4 kids. When I got married, when I met my husband, I didn't think that everything would happen like it happens in a novel. But when I fell in love with my husband, it was not at all. It wasn't anything like what I had read about, even a little bit. I didn't get butterflies and fireworks, and I didn't get a racing heart and a fluttery feeling. Like, I didn't have any of that. And I have since discovered that apparently that's called demisexual, where you don't really form romantic relationship with people unless you are friends with them for a very long time, and then you get the feelings. And 10 years later, I get those feelings. But in the beginning I didn't, and I didn't understand why. And so for a while I felt like I couldn't write romance novels if what I had felt when I fell in love was nothing like what the novels I wrote felt like. So I didn't write for a long time, and then I had kids, and I didn't think I had time to write. And then I started a fashion blog that I was really into, and I thought, well, maybe this is my new creative outlet. I didn't write for a really long time because I felt like I couldn't. I want my novels to be realistic human experiences in a way, but I still wanted that sense of romance. And I felt like, how can I write about this if I never experienced it this way? So yeah, for a long time I didn't write. I got hung up on the fact that I didn't experience romance in the same way as I wrote romance. And then I had kids, and I just didn't have time. And I went through discovering that I have depression and anxiety, and that was really big. And I tried to start so many stories that I just couldn't finish. And I grieved. I thought that I was done. I thought that I wasn't going to be a writer, that I had wanted to be for so long, and it sucked. It really sucked. I had 7 or 8 years where I just thought, I guess that's it. I guess I'm not a writer anymore. And then I met Eden Wilder, who will not take credit for how much she has been the catalyst in pushing me to write again and bringing out my writer within me that I had forgotten was there. But I met Eden Wilder. She emailed me because she found my picture on Pinterest and noticed that I was still active on social media, and she thought, well, I really like this picture, and maybe she'll let me use it on her novel instead of my trying to contrive it somehow myself. And I said yes, because that was really exciting to me, to be on the cover of any book. As a writer, I think that's super cool. And then we got to talking more, and I told her that I was a writer too. Then we got deeper into it, and I think I had let her read something that I had written, and then she asked if I wanted to be a line editor for her novellas and her short story, and then if I would be on the cover of her second story, to which I said yes. And then through line editing for her, I rediscovered how much I love writing. And she really was the catalyst. I had started a story the winter before she emailed me. I had gotten this idea for a story while I was driving home on a dark night listening to Lewis Capaldi, and I had gotten this idea for The Devil of Calhoun as it is today. But at the time I just got the idea for this male character who had maybe lost somebody that he loved, and then he met someone new, and I that was really all I had in mind. And I also knew that I'm just really into Scottish Highland romance. I had the basis of the story in December of 2019. I had started writing this story, and I had written the first chapter and then kind of stopped because I was still feeling a little bit like I didn't know who I was as an author anymore. And then I met Eden, and we talked, and she inspired me to write more, and she encouraged me so much to keep writing, and she was absolutely the biggest influence that got me to start writing again. And I started writing on The Devil of Calhoun, and then kind of in the middle, you know, in 2020, I didn't write that much. I tried, and I wrote quite a few chapters here and there, but then by the time Eden had texted me last week, I had 18 chapters written. Much thanks to her inspiration, and then line editing from my friend Emily. I was inspired to write again, and now I have 20 chapters, and I have the entire last 10 or 12 chapters of the story outlined, and I know where it's going. For a while I was really afraid that I didn't have enough story to fill out the end of the novel, and that's another part of why I didn't think I was going to have writing content on my channel, because I thought, what if I fall out of writing again? What if this is just a phase and I stop and I can't finish what I've started and what I've started sharing? And I was really afraid of that happening. But I'm gonna finish this novel. I have the entire outline. I know what's going to happen in each chapter until it ends, and I've never had that before. I've always struggled with outlines. But for these 10 chapters, I sat and I thought, okay, what has to happen? And how many chapters do I have? And I sat and I typed it out to my friend that I talked to about all of my writing, and I said, okay, just let me shoot this at you and you tell me if it sounds like a decent way to progress this novel and hit the climax and end. And that really helped me figure out how I wanted the end of this novel to really end, because I have a minor villain and a major villain. It also helped me understand what I'm going to have to add in later when I go back to edit and add in more pertinent details about the main villain and the sub-villain, if you will. So I think my plans for when I finish this novel is to start editing, of course, add in all of the things that I need to add in, do all the research that I need to do, make sure that my novel is grammatically correct and doesn't have any errors of that sort, and then pitch it to an agent and see if anybody wants to represent this novel and get it published. And if not, I will self-publish. And I just want to get my writing out there. I want to get it out there. I just want to share my novels with people and share the joy of writing with people. Share my joy of writing with others. That has always been at the heart of what I do. I love writing. I love creating stories that take people and suck them into a world where when they stop reading, they have forgotten what's happening in real life. But real life, it seems, is calling me, and I need to end this video. So if you are interested in hearing chapter 2 of The Devil of Calhoun, read by yours truly, who will be thoroughly embarrassed that she is reading anything out loud, because as an introvert, I really have chosen some weird professions. But if you would like to listen to chapter 2, if you have not listened to chapter 1, I will link the first writing video down below where you can skip to the end and listen to chapter 1. Otherwise, that is it for this video. I want to thank you if you were one of the people who encouraged me to keep writing content on my channel. Apparently I'm doing it even though I had no plans to do it. If you would like to support my channel in more ways than just liking and subscribing and commenting, you can go down to my Ko-Fi link. I always appreciate that support. I hope that wherever you are feeling safe and loved. And until I see you again, have a beautiful day and thank you for watching. Bye! I'm so nervous. A lot of you know. So whoops. I just spilled coffee all over my lap. Maybe I shouldn't hold that while I'm doing the intro. It's a good thing you can't see my lap. It's